Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from our studio here in the nation's capital. I'm Zainab Bala.
And I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. Thank you so much for joining us, Z. Good morning.
Good morning.
How's the heat? Like,
oh my goodness.
You're indoors, it's hot. You're outdoors, it's hot. And
really,
the power supply is something else.
I'm having internal heat right now. I don't know how to describe it.
I'm literally sweating.
Okay.
Oh,
it's really tragic.
May it actually get easy for us, honestly, because I don't know what we're expected to do. I don't even understand. Like, all right, so today on the show, we have a lot to discuss. First of all, we'll be discussing on agriculture and youth development or youth unemployment later in the day. And aside that, quite a number of things that have actually been happening, in politics, talking about the APC with the Osun gubernatorial elections and, Adeleke being given or being declared the winner of the gubernatorial, elections, and then from that to a whole lot, the gender bills, being revisited and a whole lot.
Well, we're also going to be looking at the dailies on Daybreak as usual, and also today in history and other discussions on the program. But before that, let's take a look at the news highlights. We begin with a story about Benin Zonal Command of National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons says it rescued 105 victims of human trafficking in various operations in 2021. The zonal commander, Naptip Nduka stated this when he spoke with the News Agency of Nigeria in Benin on Wednesday. Nwachukwu said some of the rescued victims have already been reunited with their families, while some have been empowered with skills to engage in their businesses. He said 134 cases of human trafficking were received by the command in the period under review, adding that 75 suspected traffickers were arrested, while 3 human traffickers were convicted by law courts during the period. However, 65 cases are still pending in law courts.
Well, Senate on Wednesday threw out President Muhammadu Buhari's bill seeking to amend the Electoral Act 2022. The lawmakers overwhelmingly rejected the bill titled A Bill for an Act to Amend the Electoral Act 2022 and for Related Matters 2022, a development that effectively stopped its second reading. The bill scaled first reading on Tuesday, despite a court order barring the Senate from acting on it. Senate President Ahmed Lawan, however, challenged the court order, saying that the judiciary cannot in any circumstance stop the legislature from performing its constitutional duties.
And for some tidbits on sports, a former Super Eagles player, Justice Christopher, is dead. The former midfielder reportedly slumped in his hotel in Hoshi off to the Wada Ring Road, Jos Plateau State on Wednesday. The deceased had reportedly been battling high blood pressure. However, full of life and showed no sign of health challenge when seen in the company of his friends on Tuesday. His remains have been deposited at the Plateau Specialist Hospital, while an autopsy is expected to be carried out on his corpse. Christopher played for several clubs, including Katsina United, Sharks FC, Bendel Insurance, Antwerp, Belgium, Levski Sofia, Bulgaria, Alania, Russia, among others, before announcing his retirement after the end of the season 2006 to 2007.
All right, and with that, we'll take a quick break and take a look at what happened today in history. Tuesday.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back. Well, today quite a number of events happened in history, and in case you didn't know, today is World Kidney Day. Yes, a lot of people would actually, be asking, what is World Kidney Day?
Really,
yes,
I'm also curious.
Well, it's actually, a global campaign aimed at raising awareness for the importance of our kidneys, okay? That's awareness about preventive behaviors, awareness, about risk factors, about how to live with a kidney disease as well. So this is what today World Kidney Day is actually all about.
Very interesting. Of late, I saw a post on social media that people were selling their kidneys, for money.
Yeah, a lot of people actually do that. There's a whole black market, of organ, buyers and not even donations, buyers and sellers, In fact, it's so bad that in some countries around the world, you get kidnapped and your organs are harvested.
Harvested, like a farm.
Yes, and then it's resold for a lot of money. Some people actually, because they have to, so they feel that they can actually, just leave with one. They sell one of their kidneys.
My goodness.
Yeah, they
that's
do.
bizarre.
For like,
really
there was a
bizarre.
time it went for like, I think 500,000 naira or so.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
and it was a whole market. It was a whole business back then.
Oh, I love both kidneys intact. I cannot sell either of them.
Yes.
Reviewer is smiling, and I hope he's going to react to that later as we do the
Yes.
paper reviews.
He definitely will. All right, and in 1862, Great Britain and France recognized independence of Zanzibar. We also have in 1861, West African political leader El Hajj Omar Tall seizes the city of Sego, destroying a whole Bambara empire of Mali. And then in 1893, Ivory Coast becomes a French colony and it was renamed Côte d'Ivoire. In 1893, New Mexico State University cancels its first graduation ceremony, and its only graduate, Sam Steele, was robbed and killed the night before. That was why
tragic.
the whole, ceremony was cancelled in the first place, because who do you graduate? Okay. In 1973, Morocco adopts its constitution. In 1982, the United States places an embargo on Libyan petroleum imports because of their support of terrorist groups. And then in 1990, Prosper Avril resigns as president of Haiti.
Very interesting
Yes,
events.
it is.
Okay, it's now time for us to take a look at what the papers are saying this morning, and the general editor, Daily Trust, Hamza Idris, is in the studio with us to give us perspectives on the stories making the headlines.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, welcome back. Let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And the lead story there says, as Senate rejects Buhari's request, Amechi Malami Ngige, others in tight corner. And the writers there say, mandated to resign before party primaries. Lawmakers violate understanding with presidents, and this is according to Kari. No time frame for appointees to resign. And this is coming from San. And then you see a pictorial there that shows you a car burns inside the yard of a hospital in Mariupol, southern Ukraine, just as, the tension is happening in that part of the world. And you see all the stories right at the top on page 5. Ukraine war, Western sanctions taking toll on U.S. Nigerian students in Russia. You'd also see the story about mixed reactions as Air Peace, Asman, 4 others form alliance. And then you see the story about the witness. Bandits on 200 bikes kill 13 soldiers, 5 cops in Kebbi State. And then you'd also see the story about federal government bans foreigners from buying produce directly from farmers. How 13-year-old girl was gang raped by 7 men in Lagos. There we go again. You'd also see the story about Buhari gave us clear directive to remove Buni. This is according to Arifai, the governor of Kaduna State. He has not been removed, says Omahi. You'll find the details of that on page 14 on the Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the Nation newspaper. And the lead here talks about El Rufai. 19 APC governors endorse Buni's removal. Buhari rebuffs lobbyists. Yobe governor Agbandodehe included for convention committee. Senate caucus stands on CECPC chair. Party releases NWC zoning formula and NEC meeting or NEC meeting for March 17. And then right above that story, you'd find Second Republic House of Reps Speaker Chacha dies. And then Reps invites NNPC, GMD, and others. Below that, so you find a story that says Umahi under fire for attacking judge. Ebonyi governor says, I respect judiciary, despite the backlash. And then we also have Air Peace Max United, 3 others form alliance. And at the top there's a story that says many killed in bandits attack on Deputy Governor's convoy. Senate refuses to amend Electoral Act. Lawan defends action. And then Abba Kyari's extradition suits for hearing March 23, and why Nigeria can't meet OPEC quota by silver, and details of that can be found on page 7. These are some of the stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at some more stories on the Punch this morning. Buni's lawyers, rebels colluded to procure judgment stopping convention, and this is coming from the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai. And the writers there say Buhari, 19 governors behind Buni's removal, support Bello as new chair. This is according to the Kaduna State governors. Well, Buni refused to implement Reconciliation Committee's recommendation, alleges El-Rufai. APC governors stabbing sick Buni in the back, alleges caretaker secretary, and this is coming from Akbanu Dede. And you find other stories on the Punch this morning. 5G, telcos more phased rollout, fear consumers' weak purchasing power. And on page 2 on the Punch, electoral bill, Malami Amechi barred from primaries, Senate rejects Buhari's request. And then you see the story about airfare hike looms over aviation fuel price. Marketers predict 700 naira per litre.
Wow.
That's quite alarming.
On the high side.
And on page 8, NBA Lambast Umahi, sacked governor, hires 18 SANs to battle appeal. And then you see a pictorial there of a petrol tanker exploding at a Lagos filling station, burning down buildings and rendering a number of people homeless. And then you find other stories just below the pictorial there. 16 security agents killed as bandits attack Kebbi Deputy Governor's convoy. Mob lynches suspected Ondo motorcycle thief. Police arrest 4. And on pages 4 and 5, you'll see the story about Bamishe. And the House of Representatives is asking federal government to investigate her murder, decrying female killings. These are some of the major stories on the Punch this morning.
All right, with that, we'll move to the Guardian newspaper. We have APC inaugurates convention committee, and details of that can be found on page 2. And today being World Kidney Day, why over 20 million Nigerians are living with kidney disease, and you can find details of that story on page 9. On the lead story is on Electoral Act amendment. Lawyers, others hail as Senate rejects Buhari's request. And then we have writers that say Senate gradually asserting its independence, says Adeboruwa. It is victory for democracy, says Awa Kalu. Lawmakers should be commended for rising above being rubber stamp. Ogbankwa declares time not ripe for further amendment of Electoral Act, Pius insists, and rejection in tune with demands of Nigerians, says CNPP. And just beside that, you find a story that says after knocking Justice Echo, Umahi hires SANs to reclaim Ebonyi Guba's seat. 4 policemen in FG's convoy hospitalized following auto crash in Delta. We also have court overrules duress claims in Hanifa's murder case. And on the Metro page, on 13, head of Abba Kyari probe panel, DIG Egbunike slums dies in Abuja. You'd find a pictorial there of the vice president flanked by secretary to the government of the federation, that's Boss Mustafa, and chief of staff to president, that's Ibrahim Gambari, during a federal executive council meeting at the State House in Abuja. And then we also the final story that's on the footnote of the page says that frivolous change of polytechnics in universities. Okay, it's an editorial on page 18. And with that, we wrap up some of the stories on the Guardian newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at one more on the blueprint this morning. March 26 Convention Committee lists. APC shuts out Buni, Akpanu Doede, Fani Kaide, others. And you see the riders there that say Zones National Chairman to North Central, Southwest gets Secretary. holds NEC meeting Thursday, reduces convention committee members. Buni remains caretaker chairman, and this is according to the Senate caucus. Says he'll return from Dubai, resume in that capacity. And you'd find all the stories right at the top on the Blueprint newspaper this morning. 72 hours after designation of fuel stations, Abuja queues ease off. That's good news. Very, 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 very calming. And you see the riders there: commuters, transporters express relief. Black marketers increase purchase in anticipation of a relapse. You'd find other stories on the Blueprint newspaper. Court ruling: we've hired 18 SANs to reclaim our mandate. This is according to Umahi. You must retract, apologize over your comments, NBA tells Ebonyi State Governor. And you see a pictorial there. The Blueprint also carried that story. A tanker burning at Mobile filling station in Mushin, Lagos on Wednesday. Electoral Act, Senate throws out Buhari's request for amendment. You find details of that story on page 18 on the Blueprint newspaper. For some business on page 20, lack of investments reason Nigeria can't meet OPEC quota. This is according to Silva. Kebbi deputy governor escapes as bandits kill 19 security operatives. And on page 5 on the Blueprint, IGP mourns DIG, Egbunike condoles with family. And then you'd find other stories still on the Blueprint. NDLEA arrest Taraba drug kingpin. 7 officers injured, vehicles damaged. And then you see the story about why electricity supply remains unstable nationwide, and this is according to the TCN. Dangote honors late brother, commissions food factory in Kano. These are some of the major stories on the Blueprint this morning. Okay, the general editor of Daily Trust, Hamza Idris, is here with us in the studio to give us perspectives of some of the stories making headway this morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning, Zainab. Good morning, Hussein.
Okay, initially when we were talking about the World Kidney Day, you giggled when we talked about a lot of people are selling their kidneys for money because we are poor. Can you comment on that?
Yes, it reminded me of a certain teenager in China who, without the consent of his parents, out of desperation to have an iPhone, he went and sold one of his kidneys, and sadly, he wasn't lucky. The other one failed. Oh. Yes, because donating or selling one of your organs, especially kidney, it comes with some conditions, especially if you also have some underlying ailments, and then even if you are fit, you need to take some drugs for some time, according to experts, so that you will train the remaining kidney for you to live well. But that young teenager, he was carried away by the euphoria of the apps in his new iPhone, and before he also gave up because he died. So it's really sad, and it is becoming a norm, especially in third world countries, because of poverty and greed on the side of youth. They feel that the huge amount that comes with giving out one of the kidneys is worth it. But of course, we need to support one another. Many people, millions of people are there in hospital waiting to have donors. But I think we should be cautious in doing it, especially if the intention is just to get money to do other things. Yes.
Very interesting indeed. Now we are seeing quite a lot of very, very interesting stories on our dailies this morning. A lot of newspapers are carrying the story about the request by the president to amend the new, Electoral Act, and a lot of stakeholders are giving the Senate quite an applaud for refusing, his request. Could you comment on that?
I pity the president, and I also pity the Senate leadership. and especially the Senate President. You know, when the President was about signing the amended Electoral Act, it was with a caveat that he was not comfortable with Section 84, subsection 12, which actually caged political appointees, because it says for them to be delegates for congresses and conventions, and then to also vie for elective positions, all political appointees must have to resign their appointments. And this will definitely affect many ministers, because the body language of some of them is already clear that they are going to vie for maybe the presidency. And then you have dozens of heads of federal government agencies who also have ambition to probably vie for the governorship seats in their states, maybe Senate, House of Reps, and what have you. And then there are some at the state level who want to buy, their commissioners or heads of agencies that want to vie for the governorship or State House of Assembly or House of Reps or State House of Assembly and all that. All these are going to be affected if, you know, this provision stands. But when the president realized that the signing or the assent to the Electoral Act was dragging and causing a lot of disaffection in the polity, he took risk, because it was a great risk. Yes, when he now agreed and then signed it, but urging the legislators that I'm going to send an amendment. But you can see what happened yesterday. Of course, the Senate President made an attempt to save the day by saying the order given by Federal High Court judge could not stand, considering that the judiciary cannot stop the legislature from carrying out its job, saying if they allow that to be, it means one day somebody will go to the court and then procure a judgment to even stop the National Assembly from sitting. But that notwithstanding, you can see the outcome. Both senators from the two major political parties, unanimously kicked out. So they hit the president below the belt. And it's a serious setback. But when, on the flip side, many people are really happy with what happened, because they believe that political appointees normally get undue advantage when it comes to election, because they use the power of incumbency, the security around them, the enormous resources at their disposal to have advantage over contenders that come from nowhere.
All right, so but will that bring a sanity to democracy in Nigeria? Even though it's
I doubt much.
bad
Yesterday we were debating it at our editorial meeting, and some people with knowledge of what is happening actually said this is just a temporary measure, because you can see Nigeria's democracy is like jollof rice. This is how I look at it. We said we are practicing American democracy, but do they do this there? I doubt much. There, the ground rule is meant to, outlive all the contenders. But here in Nigeria, we do things just to suit our interest. Politicians, from top to bottom, they tend to, create laws or bylaws and all that in order to solve an immediate problem. And then at the end of the day, you realize that instead of solving a problem, you are creating more problems. Now, unless maybe the president, through the office of the Attorney General or other powerful forces find a way of changing the thinking of members of the National Assembly. We are going to see a lot of problems in the coming days, because when you ask people who are holding serious position of authority at election year, asking them to resign their positions ahead of primaries, it's a recipe for another vacuum in governance, because it will definitely affect the way and manner in which government is being run. But on a general note, lawyers and then political scientists who commented on the issue said it was a good development, because you are now going to give a neutral ground where people will answer their names, they will answer their real names. Meaning if you didn't perform, it's very unlikely for you to succeed during primaries of your political party.
Quite very, very interesting tussle there. We're also seeing Kari telling, and the lawmakers that they violated their understanding with the president in the first place.
Yes, he's a political scientist, and he was speaking based on morality, but you don't have morality in politics. It is about permanent interest. He was right. He said there was an understanding, because assuming the president was aware that they will not amend that section, the likelihood was that he will not assent to the bill, and it will have been another serious problem. But you see, the president is rounding up. Next year, around this time, he will be counting days. So we will see more of this classical disobedience in court of some of his directives, because some of the politicians believe that they stand to lose nothing by not abiding by some of the pleas or directives of the president, because very soon you are going to have change of guard in the presidency. So many of them will feel that, after all, he has been there for 8 years, and then we have to now look for new alliances and all that, so that we will remain in power.
So how do you think that will affect other bills they intend, to give the president to assent to? We have the constitutional amendment actually, still in works and everything. Do you think, if that particular clause is not removed, that the president would actually heed to their demands?
Yeah, as I said, he is helpless of sort now, because if the senators from across party lines will overwhelmingly throw away that request, is really a serious setback for the president, and we are bound to see more of that. But to my understanding as a political reporter, they are not actually targeting the president. They are hitting back at their governors. You see, governors are seen as emperors in Nigeria. They are so powerful that if you are a governor, you now decide who lives and who dies in your state, literally. Because even a senator or member of House of Reps, there is no way they can get the ticket of their party if they are not in the good books of the governors. And then ministers, of course, they have resources at their disposal, and then you see some of them trying to fight with their governors. Some will want to become governors, some will want to become presidents and all that. So the legislators see this as an opportunity for them to also hit back at all of these people who are maybe appointed by the president, or they have executive positions in their state. So it's actually survival of the fittest that is going on now.
We're also seeing, a witness reports where He narrated that bandits on 200 bikes killed 13 soldiers, 5 cops in Kebbi State. That's quite very scary, isn't it?
Yes, you know, the Minister of Foreign Affairs paid a visit to the state because of killings, you know. Zamfara and the neighboring Kebbi and Sokoto states, they are now a killing field, you know. Almost on daily basis, people are being killed, they are being maimed, women being raped, students being abducted. And sadly, the attention of the media is tilted towards political reporting these days, instead of giving attention to the humanitarian crisis in some states. And unless some of these atrocities are reported, you rarely see the people responsible for tackling some of these emergencies given attention. It is only when it is reported. I remember, you know, the killing of dozens of vigilantes, also known as Ensake, in neighboring Kebbi State. It was after 2 days that most of us, you know, started reporting that incident. Even then, the prominence given was so disappointing. You know, some papers didn't even carry the report. So, and then look at what happened again a day after. You know, soldiers in Sena climes, if one soldier is killed, the whole country will stand still. But here, it's no longer a serious news when our troops are killed, because it has become a norm, and it's rather unfortunate. There is actually the need for us to have empathy for our troops, and then for even the helpless citizens who have no one to speak for them. It's really sad.
Okay, now let's talk about, you know, the whole ruckus, you know, going on in the APC, and, you know, reports saying Buni was sacked, and, you know, him saying he's not been sacked. You know, when he returns from Dubai, he would, you know, continue in the capacity of chairman of the caretaker committee. And right now on Punch newspaper, we have Buni's lawyers, rebels colluded to procure judgment stopping convention. You know, that's attributed to El Rufai. Let's just have your thoughts on the whole thing.
Yes, what El Rufai did yesterday was to confirm most of the insider stories that we reported. Other newspapers also reported that all were not well with the ruling party. You know, honestly, it's very unlikely for the Yobe governor to come back from his medical trip and then get back to his seat as caretaker chairman. We reported this based on insider information. You know what happened a few days ago when the Niger State governor stormed the National Secretariat in company of about 9 or thereabout of members of the caretaker committee, and then he held a series of meetings with party officials, with the caretaker members, and then he also saw in chairman of the party in the state, and then he also sat on the seat of the caretaker chairman, that was Buni. He also parked his vehicle at the position where Buni. So the handwriting was clear that there was change of guard at the party. But as you can see, you have about 22 APC governors, and then El Rufai yesterday said 19 of them, with the consent of the president, they agreed to remove the Buni as caretaker chairman, because they accused him and some few governors, I think about 3 or so, of not being ready to conduct convention. including the procurement of that order. From what we heard, when the president got wind of this, he was furious because he so much trusted the caretaker committee, and he gave them ample opportunity to do the right thing. You know, when they were appointed, they were given 6 months to tidy up and then conduct a convention where elected leaders will emerge. And then after the expiration, they met the president and sought for additional time. They were given another 6 months. It also expired, and then another 6 months were given. And now they are approaching 2 years, meaning they are becoming a sit-tight caretaker committee, which will not augur well for the ruling party. And then with some of the provisions of this Electoral Act 2022, if they are not careful, what happened to them in Zamfara State will happen to them at the national level. Because if they do certain things, one person will just go to court and then cite one of the provisions of the Electoral Act, and then even if they win the presidency, don't be surprised that a court will sack all of them and give all the positions to the opposition political parties. So I think it was based on this that the president, alongside governors, decided to kick out the caretaker committee, and then they gave the position to the governor of Niger State, who will most likely be there for only 3 weeks or thereabout.
All right, with that, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue the paper review.
The idea was to give the interim government confidence that there is somebody, a military man, who is well known, who can be accepted.
You alluded to the case of your son, Umar Farouk. Are you in touch with him?
Yes, he phones us 2 times, sometimes 3 times in a month.
As always, when I'm talking about late Abiola, I still thank my God for directing me on things to do when he gave me that leadership of this country.
Many of you honest Fulanis, you allow this man to cast aspersion on you.
You know, Zamfara is the mother of all bandits.
The biggest problem, if you permit me, is the fact that we have not been able to get the totality of our citizenry.
It's very, very difficult to have a fixed mind like that this one you will hand over to this person because you think he will do better.
I don't see myself under no circumstance ever leaving APC for another political party.
Here
on the Mambila Plateau. And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed.
Most people in Nigeria are ignorant of the fact that employing a child as a maid is in fact against the law.
Access to the textile mill has been very difficult.
I believe, or I think that if you want to make money, it should be in a place where there are not plenty of people that can do what you do.
From the way things are happening now, I don't think the two parties will make any impact.
I've been talking about the updates concerning the campaign of Nigerian Super Eagles in Abuja.
Bola Tinubu has informed President Muhammadu Buhari of his ambition to contest for the position of president.
To be self-reliant, a blind man defies all odds to become a carpenter in Gombe State.
The country is now experiencing a fourth wave of the COVID-19 pandemic with the emergence of the Omicron variant.
Talks are ongoing between NRC management and the union.
All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust TV. And we still have the General Editor, Daily Trust, Hamza Idris, here with us, giving us perspectives on some of the stories making headway on our dailies this morning. Now, there seem to be quite a lot of reactions from people in regards to the alliance formed by some airline operators in the country. Why is this?
Ordinarily, it should be a thing of joy for Nigerians, but going by recent happenings, the alliance by Airpeace, Azman, Aero Contractors, and a few others also elicited negative reactions. You know, a few days ago, they increased the minimum rate for domestic traveling to 50,000, meaning even if you are traveling 2 or 3 months ahead of time, you will not get a ticket for less than 50,000. You know, and this was all like what obtained before. That if you want to travel and then you book far ahead of time, you get the ticket almost free, because you see the charges from maybe 20,000 or thereabout. And then this was reflected in all the sites of all the carriers. So Nigerians were really not happy when they did that. Even though they denied it, they attributed the increase to natural causes, as they put it. Now, alliance in the aviation industry is actually something that you find all over the world. International airlines, they have alliances, and it is meant to ease their operations and to also reduce the risk of subjecting travelers to untold hardship. And in a nutshell, what it means is that if you book, let's say, Airpeace to travel from Lagos to Abuja, and then something happened, you will have the opportunity of using your ticket to come to Abuja through Aero Contractors or any other carrier which is in the alliance. But the fear is that they are gradually forming a cartel, and you know what that means. When you have a cartel, meaning you can manipulate the market to your advantage. So while many people commended the initiative, some experts in the aviation industry said it should not just be allowed to be the spring alliance, as the airliners now name it, that regulatory agencies should also be part of it to make sure that travelers are not shortchanged. So from my perspective, I think it's a positive thing because it will reduce the pressure on the airlines on one hand, and then it will also give some confidence for travelers to continue to patronize the aviation sector.
Okay, so but what about a story on the Punch newspaper that says, airfare hike looms yet again, over aviation fuel price, marketers saying that they're predicting it's going to be 700 naira per litre.
Already it's above 600, something that ordinarily should cost 160 or thereabout. So you can see the increment more than 300% or thereabout. And then the aviation industry is completely deregulated. There is no subsidy for them. They buy the aviation fuel based on market forces, and they are not Father Christmas, because if the time you are buying it at 200 or thereabout, you charge let's say the 50,000 that is there now, and then you now have an increment of 200%, that is around 700. What do? They have no option but to also increase the fare, because they just have to maintain the aircraft, they have to pay their staff and all that. I see us remaining in this trouble until when we put our house together. You can see all over the world, OPEC members are celebrating the hike in prices of crude oil, right? But here in Nigeria, we are lamenting because we are using the gains to now pay subsidy and then bring fuel back to the country for domestic consumption. It's really sad. The way out for Nigeria is to quickly fix our refineries, build more refineries, then give maybe support to private individuals to also have refineries. Of course, in other places they are talking about green energy and all that, but it's not yet time for us here, because it's not an easy task. You can see for over 60 years we are yet to get it right with even the petroleum this thing, not to talk of green energy. So we should still give serious attention to our refineries so that we can refine the product here and then sell it at affordable prices for both the aviation and then for our cars, trucks, and all that. That is the only way, because subsidy is not sustainable. It has multiplier effect on the economy.
Very, very interesting. It seems we are yet again faced with another very sad cruelty situation, as on the Daily Trust, a story about a 13-year-old girl was gang raped by 7 men in Lagos.
Yes, that's just an isolated incident that was reported yesterday. Let me put it mildly, because if you like, you can have a whole edition with cases of rape in Nigeria, because it happens almost every hour, and then you see the culprits foot dragging, causing a lot of delays in our courts. And then I think I blame our legal system, because the justice delivery is so weak, and then it takes a lot of time and resources, even when you have all the evidence against the culprits. You see, I keep making reference to other countries, because that is the only way to now show that it is our attitude, it is our rule of law, and it is because of the way we handle some of these heinous acts that the perpetrators think that they can do whatever they like to go scot-free. Because you wonder, 13-year-old girl and then 7 men descending on her. For what? Definitely not for pleasure, it's for maybe rituals. Then what rules in our books, are there, checkmating some of these, heinous acts? Some will be advised to rape, some will be advised to now kill and then bring some parts to, ritualists just to get rich. And then if somebody is taken to court, you see the case starting from magistrate, and then later it will go to high court, and then despite all evidences, you see the case for dragging for years. This gives courage to other people to actually go into such acts. So I think there is a need for us to change the rule by, not necessarily on, crimes like that, on anything that instead of saying somebody is innocent until, he is proven guilty, that any other person should be seen as guilty, that he should prove himself that he's innocent. Because that is the easiest way. In some francophone countries, this is what they do. If somebody is caught and then the verdict is that he's guilty, and then for him to be set free, he has to prove that he is actually innocent. But here in Nigeria, reverse is the case, and that is why people are going free. Somebody, look at the case in Kano, Hanifa. Yes, her, killer proprietor. After confessing, after writing, and confessing that he actually killed her, later on he said he was forced by the police to now, say that he was guilty. And then now the evidence was shifted to the police to prove that, he was not forced. But I thank the judge. I was really happy yesterday when he admitted, the facts presented by the police ab initio. So we should try in Nigeria to avoid all these needless technicalities, because that's the only way to show citizens that if you misbehave, you are in for trouble.
Okay. Now let's talk about the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Ogunike, who actually slumped in his office and died a few days ago. Some people are actually suspecting foul play. That he was involved in the Abba Kyari case.
You see, may his soul rest in peace. It was really sad. He was one of the finest police officers that we have in the country, and he was heading one of the most sensitive offices, at the force headquarters. Therefore, his death could be described as a serious tragedy for Nigeria, and then it will definitely affect many ongoing investigations. Of course, he was not doing it alone. He had some people around him, and then somebody will definitely take over from where he stopped. But saying he died simply because he was investigating the Abba Kyari case, as far as I am concerned, that claim will not stand, because maybe after an autopsy we will know, but from the feelers, some were attributing the death to stress, that he was overworked, because he was investigating multiple cases, and then he really rest. And then some said he was choked up by a bone that he was eating or something like that, yes. And then, a bone hooked him in his throat, and then he was coughing, and when he was taken to hospital before, he died. There are many school of thoughts, but I am sure that the police authorities, in collaboration with the hospitals where he was taken to before he died, will unravel the mystery behind his death. But I don't think if it is a certain incantation somewhere that
All right, I think with that, we will wrap up the newspaper review. Thank you so much, Hamza Idris, General Editor, Daily Trust, for joining us on this segment today.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll move on to our first discussion. Do stay with us.
The women lobbied, and they lobbied very, 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 very well. I think they did a good job. I will not throw them under the bus and say they didn't lobby enough. They did a very, very, very good job. But again, like we said, culture and religion, they're as old as civilization. They are hard to kill, they are hard to bury, they are hard to forget. But we've done a good job today. Everybody came, everybody expressed their opinion, and we all came to a common ground that no, we have to do this. So remember, we didn't do everything. We did about 70%. So I think we also deserve some pat on the back for giving the women folk a great present on International Women's Day.
Though the fight for women inclusion has been on for over 20 years, since 1999. But for the past 1 week, the tempo has been higher than it was. And it is justifiably so. I say so because it's a moment in time for Nigeria to adjust her legal framework towards becoming better than we met it. And to achieve that, it must be holistic. Holistic in the sense that the hunger, the desire, the passion of every citizen of this country must be incorporated.
You recall that on the 1st of March, the House voted for 68 items in respect of a constitutional amendment. However, the aforementioned 3 bills could not step through because you could not obtain the 2/3 majority to pass the bills. Accordingly, in line with our excellent rules, I move that we suspend our excellent rules, 1, to rescind our election in respect of these 3 bills.
There are issues arising therefrom, and the House, in its wisdom, has decided to take a course of action for the good of the country. And that action is to rescind 3 of the decisions that were taken on that day, and after the rescission, release them on the next set of amendments coming up. I believe, Deputy Speaker, in the next 4 weeks, within the next 4 weeks, it will come up again for voting. But the important thing is that we rescind 3 of those decisions.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. It's still Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, moving on to our first discussion, Governor David Umahi and his deputy Kelechi Igwe were removed from office by Federal High Court on Tuesday over the defection to the All Progressives Congress, from the People's Democratic Party. Now, in his reaction, Umahi rejected the judgment, calling it jungle justice and describing the presiding judge, that's Justice Inyang Ekwo, as a hatchet man. The Nigerian Bar Association has since condemned the statements by the governor of Ebonyi State, and we're here to get perspectives of this particular issue. And joining us virtually all the way from Birnin Kebbi is lawyer Sam Kabo. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on the show today. Of the court judgment that actually sacked the Ebonyi State Governor and his deputy. Okay, we seem to have an issue with his audio. I think we'll take a quick break and we'll try to reconnect and see if we can hear him. We'll be back in a bit. Do stay with us.
The idea was to give the interim government confidence that there is somebody, a military man, who is well known, who can be accepted.
You alluded to the case of your son, Umar Farouk. Are you in touch with him?
Yes, yes, he phones us 2 times, sometimes 3 times in a month.
As always, when I'm talking about late Abiola, I still thank my God for directing me on things to do when he gave me that leadership of this country.
Many of you honest Fulanis, you allow this man to cast aspersion on you.
You know, Zamfara is the mother of all bandits.
The biggest problem, if you permit me, is the fact that we have not been able to get the totality of our citizenry.
It's very, very difficult to have a fixed mind like that this one you will hand over to this person because you think you will do better.
I don't see myself under no circumstance ever leaving APC for another political party.
Here on the Mambila Plateau. And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed.
Most people in Nigeria are ignorant of the fact that employing a child as a maid is in fact against the law.
Access to the textile mill has been very difficult.
I believe or I think that if you want to make money, it should be in a place where there are not plenty of people that can do what you do.
From the way things are happening now, I don't think the two parties will make any impact.
I've been talking about the updates concerning the campaign of Nigerian Super Eagles in Abuja.
Bola Tinubu has informed President Muhammadu Buhari of his ambition to contest for the position of president.
To be self-reliant, a blind man defies all odds to become a carpenter in Gombe State.
The country is now experiencing a fourth wave of the COVID-19 pandemic with the emergence of the Omicron variant.
Talks are ongoing between NRC management and the union.
All right, welcome back. Well, for now, let's take this report on banana plantation in the north, specifically in Kano State. Do stay.
Banana plantation and of course its farming activities is commonly practiced in the middle belt and southern part of Nigeria with a temperature which is suitable for banana farming. In far northern Nigerian city of Kano, we trace this farm, which is the only banana plantation in this part of the country, even though a tropical region in Nigeria where banana can also grow. But this is the only one. So we are here to find out how the owner manages to sustain it for over 20 years since he first started growing it. Uba Idris Dan Hassan is a retired custom officer who invested his retirement benefits in this 3.9 hectare banana plantation in Kano. His idea of banana farming was conceived some 20 years ago when he first started fish farming and later realized that it goes hand in hand with banana farming.
When I was reading up and down, I found out that banana grows very well with fish waste. So I now have to go and look for a banana stand, just one stick of banana, and planted it by the side of my fish pond. So when the water is draining, it passes through it. So it has given me a marvelous starting. It grows in time and it grows very big. So I now have to pick a seedling by its side, plant ahead, like 5 or 6, about 6 or 5. So the water was passing through them. Then I saw that after some months, it bears very big bunch of fruits like this, which I use.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back. Now, we have successfully reconnected with Sam Kabo, a lawyer, and would love to have his take on the issue at hand that we're actually discussing about the sack of the Ebonyi State governor and his deputy. Can we have your interpretation? Good morning once again.
Yes, good morning. I hope you can hear me now. Let me start by saying that I have not read the judgment, and I would therefore have to be very careful with the conclusion that I would make. The issues here are a little bit intricate, I have seen people trying to make some extrapolations from decisions that were made from litigations that arise from elections or issues that are covered by electoral act. This one is not an issue that is covered by the electoral act, but by the constitution. And that is to say, whether or not a governor loses his office by virtue of the fact that he leaves the party through which he was elected to another party. Offhandedly, you would say no, because the constitution is very clear. Whereas the constitution makes a provision for such a consequence for a legislature, it did not make that for the governor. And the constitution is very specific on when and how a governor who has taken oath and has started his tenure can be removed. The issue of votes are only material at the time of election because the constitution gives the party the agency to recruit candidates for elections. And therefore, those decisions that say the votes that are gotten by a candidate belong to the party, those decisions are right because in any case, it is the party that the constitution gave or gives the duty or the responsibility to recruit the candidates. But the moment the candidate is successful and he takes the oath of office, he becomes the property of the state and not the party. And therefore, his fate can no longer be related to the party because the party has done its job in presenting him as a candidate for the election. So when you have a judgment that says that because the governor has decamped to another party and therefore he loses his seat, I have my worry about that. But thankfully, irrespective of my cautionary opinion, the three-tier system of our own adversary system gives the governor the opportunity to appeal. And once he appeals within the time stipulated, the judgment is stayed. And he would be in office until the Supreme Court says otherwise. So for now, I do not think he needs to be worried. And I would also want to advise that whoever you are, whatever office you hold, if a judgment is made against you, the only option you have is to appeal and not to disparage the judge, because the judge has the right to be wrong and he could be right, because the law would not be expanded if judges are not adventurous. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that this case would be attended to in an accelerated manner so that it would go to the Supreme Court as quickly as possible so that we would have a final decision on this. And thankfully, if for anything, it is even good that this decision is, this particular case is coming on the eve of the next general elections. I do not think that is talking morally here now. I do not think it is right. I do not think it is fair for a governor to gift the mandate of the people to a party that the people have rejected at the polls. But like I said, my opinion or my moral view does not matter. What matters is what the Constitution says. The Constitution has said that this is how a governor who has been elected into office and who has taken the oath of office can be removed. You cannot take his faith back to the elections. The election was a process that was governed by a different law. The moment he scales through that recruitment process through the elections, he becomes the governor of the people of the state and an instrument or organ of the state. A governor is not an organ of a political party. It's not an office of a political party. It is an office of the state. And the state, in its own wisdom, through the Constitution, has said that this is how you could be removed. Otherwise, you spend through your 4-year tenure.
The governor actually is saying that he's going to hire 18 senior advocates, of Nigeria to take back his mandate. Does he stand a chance in any form?
Well, if he has the money, it is good for the profession. But it is not the quantity or number of lawyers that you hire that matter. For my own personal experience, too many cooks, they say they spoil the broth. The issues are very narrow, very straightforward. I do not see why you need to employ that many lawyers. But as a lawyer, I think I should be happy because people are being employed. And on the question as to whether or not he has a chance, I wish him good luck. And if for anything, the law will be richer. Because like I have said, from my own personal reading of the law, I do not think he could be removed on the basis of him decamping to APC. It is wrong morally. It is unfair on the people of Ebonyi State. But the law is the law. The Constitution is wiser. If the legislators want to prevent that tomorrow, they can make an amendment and make the same provisions that they have made with respect to the legislators. But for now, I do not think the Constitution contemplates the consequence that the judgment have meted on the governor.
If this particular judgment is eventually upheld in the appellate court, who would be affected, considering that there are many other governors who have actually, left the parties that actually brought them into power?
Of course, you can name them. You have Ayade of Cross River. You have Matawale of Sampara. Yes, so definitely those ones, I guess, they will be helplessness too. But let me make the point again. Like I have said, most of of the reactions out there by lawyers and some other analysts. The thinking and the reasoning is based on the Electoral Act. And the Electoral Act is about election and not about the tenure of the government. Like I have said, the moment that process is done and a governor is sworn in, he becomes a god of his own. We are not practicing a parliamentary system where you have party supremacy. Of course, even in a presidential system like South Africa, the constitution makes it very clear and gives powers to the political party to discipline their own executive officers up to the president. But we do not have that here. The moment they become governors and they are sworn in, the best they can do is to appropriate the party and call themselves the leaders of the party, even though no law says so. So I do not think that the governor or the other governors need to really lose sleep over the judgment. If for anything, the positive we take from it is that they should be careful because anything can happen tomorrow. And like I have always warned, the Supreme Court is not entirely a court of principle. It's also a court of policy. And it can use that power to sanitize the polity, I mean. And for those who make reference to Amiti's case, I believe that that judgment was a policy judgment, and I think it was meant to tame the excesses of Obasanjo at that time. But thereafter, the court had been moving away from it, even in terms of the elections. But for the judgment in Kogi State, I would have by now been saying that the Supreme Court has moved away entirely from it. But like I have said, that is for elections. The moment a governor is sworn in, he becomes a god of his own. And if we go back to history, we know that this particular issue is not even entirely new. Atiku left his party as a deputy governor and joined AD because of the problem he was having with his boss, that's Obasanjo. And Obasanjo used this same reasoning and tried to force an impeachment. But he went to court. And the defense raised this issue that because he has moved away from the party that sponsored him into office, he has lost the office. The Supreme Court said no. The moment he's sworn in, he becomes a man of his own, and his umbilical cord is cut away from both the president and the political party. So I do not see why people should keep going back to the issue of the votes. And I'm also a little bit anxious to see the judgment because the judgment is in two parts. One part affecting the governor and his deputy, and one part affecting the State House of Assembly members. The reasoning concerning the State House of Assembly members is different. Because like I have said, the Constitution made it very clear that except there is a crisis in your party, a verifiable one at that, if you jump ship or use the ordinary language, you decamp, you lose your office. So those ones should be working. And if I were them,
if you can
they
hear
should
me,
be the ones
can
to
you share
hire.
your thoughts on the court ordering 16 lawmakers who defected with the governor and his deputy, to refund all salaries and monies received from the day they defected to the APC?
I would love that if the Supreme Court finds in favor of this judgment or upheld this judgment concerning them, and then obviously the money they have been earning unconscionably should be refunded, if for anything to serve as a deterrent to others.
Do you think this actually affects, Governor Umahi, considering that he made his intention? Okay, we seem to have an issue. Okay, how do you think this would actually affect, the governor, considering that he made his intention to run for presidency, known early this year?
Well, he's a politician. He should know that this is a political time, and his opponents will use all tools available to them to make sure that they keep him busy. If for anything, I think for now, he would spend his energy on maintaining his office. Yeah, but if he's bold, he can ignore this one and leave the lawyers to do the job for him, and go ahead with his campaign. I wish him luck.
End this discussion here. Thank you so much, Sam Kabo, for joining us on Daybreak today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
After this break.
The idea was to give the interim government confidence that there is somebody, a military man, who is well known, who can be accepted.
You alluded to the case of your son, Umar Farouk. Are you in touch with him?
Yes, he he phones us 2 times, sometimes 3 times in a month.
As always, when I'm talking about late Abiola, I still thank my God for directing me on things to do when he gave me that leadership of this country.
Many of you honest Fulanis, you allow this man to cast aspersion on you.
You know, Zamfara is the mother of all bandits.
The biggest problem, if you permit me, is the fact that we have not been able to get the totality of our citizenry.
It's very, very difficult to have a fixed mind like that this one you will hand over to this person because you think you will do better.
I don't see myself under no circumstance ever leaving APC for another political party. Here on the Mambila Plateau. And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed.
Most people in Nigeria are ignorant of the fact that employing a child as a maid is in fact against the law.
Access to the textile mill has been very difficult.
I believe, or I think that if you want to make money, it should be in a place where there are not plenty of people that can do what you do.
From the way things are happening now, I don't think the two parties will make any impact.
I've been talking about the updates concerning the campaign of Nigerian Super Eagles in Abuja.
Bola Tinubu has informed President Muhammadu Buhari of his ambition to contest for the position of president.
To be self-reliant, a blind man defies all odds to become a carpenter in Gombe State.
The country is now experiencing a 4th wave of the COVID-19 pandemic with the emergence of the Omicron variant.
Talks are ongoing between NRC management and the union.
Banana plantation and of course its farming activities is commonly practiced in the middle belt and southern part of Nigeria with a temperature which is suitable for banana farming. In far northern Nigerian city of Kano, we trace this farm, which is the only banana plantation in this part of the country, even though a tropical region in Nigeria where banana can also grow. But this is the only one. So we are here to find out how the owner manages to sustain it for over 20 years since he first started growing it. Uba Idris Dan Hassan is a retired custom officer who invested his retirement benefits in this 3.9-hectare banana plantation in Kano. His idea of banana farming was conceived some 20 years ago when he first started fish farming and later realized that it goes hand in hand with banana farming.
When I was reading up and down, I found out that banana grows very well with fish waste. So I now have to go and look for a banana stand, just one stick of banana, and planted it by the side of my fish pond. So when the water is draining, it passes through it. So it has given me a marvelous starting. It grows in time and it grows very big. So I now have to pick a seedling by its side, plant ahead like 5 or 6, about 6 or 5. So the water was passing through them. Then I saw that after some months, it beared very big bunch of fruits like this, which I used some for my family eating. Then the rest, I took them to the market and I saw that the price was wonderful. So I said, now, okay, this thing can bring such money, so I have to come and expand.
According to this man, growing banana is not as difficult as someone may think. But to have a yield for increased profit, the process requires good management, such as fertile land, timely irrigation and fertilizer application are the main key priorities.
The banana has bear fruits now. Yeah. So the banana has bear fruits now. So what is happening after the fruiting? You will see it has started diminishing or deterring, coming from big ones to big one to big one, then small, mid, intermediate, small. Then it will no longer bear viable fruits or the fruit that will grow to be eaten. So after it has started diminishing, you now prune the small ones that are not viable after like 2 or 3 fingers. You understand? Then you now cut. You use a knife and cut it. But as we are having it now, let us cut it by hand. So this is the fruit. Now this one will continue opening.
When properly managed, banana farming can be a highly profitable business capable of changing someone's life for good.
Okay, let's say in a week, I will send this one like 500,000, 450,000 naira to El Lemo. Okay. Then that is when the production peak starts. That is around August, September, October, and November, because the rainfall have given much and the weather condition have given much nutrients. So then the supermarkets, usually I send almost 100,000 in three days. Every day 100,000. Every one of the 3 days 100,000. I send to various supermarkets. So if you sum up, maybe 3 times in a week, making 300,000. If you put them on 400 or 500,000, you are nearer to 1 million. What is 800,000? You get it. So let's say within the period, the mass production period, this is what I realize in this farm weekly.
In a tropical Kano state, where the average temperature is located at 500 meters equivalent to 1,600 feet above the sea level in the north, farmers have not shown interest in banana farming despite its economic advantage.
The education and the knowledge, I believe, is what contributed to our people not engaging. But let me tell you, with this farm around, I know more than 30 or 40 farmers, big shots of Kano, that are into banana production as at now. As I'm telling you, I now saw that people are going into it and I'm happy. So I now manage, put things together to be collecting works like a consultancy. Okay. You show me your farm, I measure it, I tell you what seedlings it will consume. Then I charge you, you pay me.
Banana requires a lot of water. It requires good management to grow. And because it grows in a tropical region like Nigeria, which means that Kano is not an exception. As it grows in the middle and southern part of Nigeria, banana can also grow in Kano. But according to many farmers, education and constant knowledge on how to manage banana plantations is the problem. That is why many people are not interested in venturing into it. But with something like this, it is expected that the people of Kano State will wake up to these challenges of growing banana in this part of the country. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
President Muhammadu Buhari has recently appended his signature on the much-debated Electoral Act Amendment Bill as reworked by the National Assembly. Part of the objectives of the amended law is to engender transparency and accountability in the nation's electoral process, discourage human interference through electronic transmission, as well as open the electoral space for more participation amongst others.
It's a plus. Kudos to the Mr. President. Kudos to the National Assembly, kudos to Nigeria, that we have a reformed electoral law in place. But the big question is that, would the electoral law change our attitude? It's still a big question. Unless our attitude is changed, I'm not sure electoral law alone can work miracles.
Because a law is as good as its enforcement. You know, if it's not enforced, it's not even worth the paper that it's written on. So this bill is not an exception. Mr. President must go a step further by ensuring that the security agencies do their work, you know, before the elections, during the elections, and after the elections.
Then once you have somebody that seemingly meets some expectation, develops some social contract, because that is what the Constitution even says, you know, that political office and citizens have what they call the social charter, you know, and that social charter must actually include and indicate some expectations, you know, which the political office must sign off. Then you use that as an instrument for engagement. Then once the person gets to the office, then you can use that to begin to demand some level of accountability, demand some kind of infrastructure.
The respondents say, though reforming the electoral law to address existential and contemporary loopholes is imperative, realizing the objective of free, fair and credible election requires much more than sound legal framework.
One will be the political parties, two will be the electorate, and three will be INEC. And security institutions also have a very big role to play. In previous elections, they have been used very massively for rigging, for distortion, for manipulation. We need to get security agencies also to understand that yes, they are neutral in the entire processes, but they also have a role to ensure that credibilities are also recorded at every stance in the entire value chain.
We should not exonerate ourselves that politicians are the ones that are bad. Some of us are their advisors as professors. What are we advising them? Everybody just advising for his pocket. The businessmen, they also are in the economy. Even the religious leader. What are we preaching in the churches and mosques? Is it not? Whom are we praying for? With monetized prayers. You pray for those who have money.
The person giving and the person receiving, all of them are guilty, you know, of the same offense. So if in any situation people are brought, you know, before the court that you received this amount of money, it's a criminal offense. You gave this amount of money, it's a criminal offense, and they are dealt with in accordance with the law. I'm sure people will be discouraged.
Attitudinal change amongst Nigerians, the political actors, the electoral umpire and security agencies towards achieving credible electoral process, they say, is critical to meeting the desired objective. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
All right, with that, we have come to the end of Daybreak on Trust TV. Thank you so much for tuning in today on the show. Tomorrow will be better, we promise you that. And, you know, for now, have yourselves a wonderful day ahead. I'm Darshan Husseina Osman.
And I'm Zainab Bala. See you tomorrow.